Students, now let us begin with next part of the national movement. As we have studied in the last lesson, Mahatma Gandhi returned to India from South Africa in 1915. Gandhiji was already popular by then for his non-violent marches against racism as an internationally respected leader.
The campaigns led by Gandhiji in South Africa helped him get in contact with various people, the Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Parsis, besides people of various regions like Gujaratis, Tamils and upper-class merchants, lawyers, workers and so on.
Students, now let us see how Gandhiji contributed to the national struggle. The first year, Mahatma Gandhi toured around the country to know the people, their needs and the entire situation that prevailed in the country.
The initial campaigns of Mahatma Gandhi included support to the local movements like Champaran and Kheda. Gandhiji extended his support to the local peasants in their struggles against high taxes and unfair practices. In the year 1918, Gandhiji led a strike of mill workers in Ahmedabad. The association in the two local movements helped Gandhiji to get in touch with many leaders including Rajendra Prasad and Vallabhbhai Patel, who went to be his lifelong associates.
Well, now let us learn about the various movements that took place in the country between 1919 and 1922. It is important for us to know that Mahatma Gandhi did not associate himself with any group of the Congress. Mahatma Gandhi carved a niche for himself in the national politics.
In 1917, Mahatma Gandhi launched the Champaran campaign, the Kaira protest movement in 1918 and led the Ahmedabad textile workers agitation in 1918. As a result of these agitations, Gandhiji rose to fame as a popular leader and important political activist. Gandhiji called for a satyagraha in 1919 to protest against the Rowlatt Act that was passed by the British government.
According to the Rowlatt Act, the freedom of expression of the people was restricted and police powers were strengthened. The police could arrest and imprison any person without trial who was suspected to be a terrorist. In case there is a trial, it was supposed to be a secret trial in which person in trial could not know the evidence against him or her.
Leaders like Mahatma Gandhi, Muhammad Ali Jinnah and many others strongly believed that the government had no right to curb the basic freedoms of the people. The act was termed to be devilish and tyrannical. Gandhiji gave a call to the people of the nation to observe April 6, 1919 as a day of non-violent opposition to the Rowlatt Act. He asked them to observe the day with humiliation and prayer and hartal.
Satyagraha Sabhas were arranged to launch the protest. Students, the Rowlatt Satyagraha hence became the first all-India struggle against the British rule, even though it was restricted to the cities.
The year 1919 saw many demonstrations and hartals across the country while the government used harsh measures to curb them. The Jallianwala Bagh is a classic example of the harsh measures of the British. On April 13, 1919, General Dyer issued orders for firing on a meeting of unarmed people at the Jallianwala Bagh in Amritsar, Punjab. Around 400 people were killed and thousands of people were injured in this massacre. Rabindranath Tagore, the great poet, renounced his knighthood as a mark of protest against the Jallianwala Bagh massacre.
One important aspect during the Rowlatt Satyagraha was the unity of Hindus and Muslims. Mahatma Gandhi also called for unity among the people in India, where Hindus and Muslims and people of other religions lived together. Moreover, Mahatma Gandhi was in favor of the support of Hindus and Muslims for each in any fight of rights.
A tough treaty was imposed on the Turkish Sultan or Khalifa in the year 1920 by the British.
This step of the British received the same kind of fierce response as the Jallianwala Bagh. In addition, the Muslims in India were strong about the Khalifa retaining the control over Muslim sacred places in the then Ottoman Empire.
In such a scenario, Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali, the leaders of the Khilafat movement, came out with a complete non-cooperation movement. This move was supported by Gandhiji, while he also pressed the Congress on campaigning against the Punjab wrongs or the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, supporting the Khilafat movement and demand Swaraj or independence. In the year 1920, in the Nagpur Congress session, Gandhiji was acknowledged the leader of Congress.
Students, it was in this session that the main aim of the Congress was decided to be the achievement of Swarajya or independence through peaceful means. Another important aspect is that non-cooperation was adopted as the means to achieve the end of Swarajya.
It was between 1921 and 1922 that the non-cooperation movement gained pace. Many students left government schools and colleges. Motilal Nehru, C.R. Das, C. Rajagopalachari and Asaf Ali were some of the lawyers who gave up their practices.
The people surrendered their British titles and boycotted legislatures across the country. As we have studied, the foreign cloth was also boycotted and burnt in public places. As a result, the imports of foreign cloth came down greatly.
At the same time, Gandhiji gave a call to the people to spin their own cotton on a charkha. The khadi cloth was spun in many homes across the country, which facilitated for the country to get self-reliant.
Students, this was just one part of the story. In many parts of the country, revolts against British were on the verge. Let us see the case of Andhra during that period.
At that time, the district of Guntur occupied the center stage for nationalist activities. Students, merchants and peasants from villages also took active part in the nationalist activities.
The Chirala Perala movement is one of the important milestones of the national movement in Andhra, which you have studied in your earlier classes. Let us now have a quick look at the Chirala Perala movement.
The government made a decision to merge the villages of Chirala and Perala and convert them into a municipality and imposed high taxes. Duggirala Gopala Krishnaiah led a campaign of around 15,000 people from Chirala to revolt against the payment of taxes. The people vacated their houses and made a new settlement called Ramnagar, where they stayed for 11 months.
This resulted in non-payment of the revenues along with resignation of many village officers. The slogans of Gandhiji's Swaraj is coming and we will not pay taxes to this government did the rounds in the villages. Another significant development in Andhra was the forest satyagraha in the Palanati Taluka of Guntur district and in Raichoti Taluka of Kadapa district. In these areas, the peasants sent their cattle into forests for grazing without paying grazing fees to the forest departments.
There were attacks on police parties after the declaration of Gandhi Raj by people in many villages of Palnadu.
The people began to believe that the end of the colonial rule was very close and that their forests would be back under their control. The functioning of the forest administration literally came to a halt, especially during the agitation period. Well, what do you understand from this? The people believed that Gandhiji was their savior from the poverty and the misery. Gandhiji tried to bring in a society with the unity of the classes. He was against the conflict of classes. But then the people thought Gandhiji would help them to fight against zamindars, while the agricultural believed he would help them to get their lands. Another interesting aspect is that sometimes the masses gave credits to Gandhiji for their own achievements. For example, the peasants of Pratapgarh in the United Province, now Uttar Pradesh, averted the forcing out of tenants while they felt it was Gandhiji who won it for them. Sometimes the tribals and peasants used the name of Gandhiji to execute certain actions that were against the Gandhian ideology. Students, now let us look at the important happenings that took place between 1922 and 1929. As we know, Gandhiji was against violence.
The non-cooperation movement was called off by Gandhiji in February 1922 in the wake of the peasants setting fire to the Chauri Chaura police station.
When the police opened fire on a peaceful protest, the people of Chauri Chaura were disturbed. As a result, they set fire to the Chauri Chaura police station that killed 22 policemen. When the non-cooperation movement came to an end, the followers of Gandhiji pressed on the Congress, adopting developmental work in the rural areas. On the other hand, C.R. Das, Motilal Nehru and other leaders believed that the Congress should contest elections and earn an entry to the councils to influence the government policies. The Gandhians carried out social work in the villages, which helped in the introduction of civil disobedience movement in the year 1930 in India.
The establishment of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh (RSS), a Hindu organization, and the Communist Party of India were the two significant developments of the mid-1920s. In addition, Bhagat Singh, the revolutionary leader, also actively participated in the national struggle during this period.
Here's an exercise for all of you. Find out about the ideas of each of these two organizations, the RSS and CPI. Students, now let us learn about civil disobedience movement.
The Lahore session of the Congress took place in the year 1929 under the presidentship of Jawaharlal Nehru. This session has been significant in the history of India for the resolution of attainment of Purna Swaraj or complete independence. The aim was proposed to be achieved through civil disobedience movement.
The leftists in the Congress took the lead for the movement and chalked out a national goal and a program. In the wake of these developments, the Congress Working Committee made a decision to observe 26 January from then on as a day of Purna Swaraj.
On March 12, 1930, Gandhiji called for the Dandi March at the Sabarmati Ashram in Ahmedabad. Through the march, Gandhiji decided to protest against the British salt laws. He planned to take up a march to Dandi, a small village on the coast of Gujarat, and manufacture salt there. Gandhiji, along with 78 followers, marched for 375 kilometers from Sabarmati Ashram to Dandi, which took around 24 days.
The newspapers published news about the march, the speeches during the march and the influence on the people. Many village officials en route Dandi resigned their jobs.
On 6th April 1930, Gandhiji reached Dandi. He picked up a handful of salt and broke the salt as a sign of protest of Indians to live under the rule of British and British laws.
The news of the march spread instantly to the other places in the country. The people were influenced immensely. There were protests against the salt laws in various places. The women also actively participated in the civil disobedience movement. Around 1,600 women were imprisoned in Delhi. Along with salt satyagraha, the civil disobedience movement also included picketing of foreign cloth and liquor shops. These shops were burnt by people. Students, during this time, the hand spinning on the charkha was a part of the movement. The British run schools, colleges and services were boycotted and several people joined the movement. The government subjugated the crowds mercilessly, took to lathi charges and firing on the crowds. Around 90,000 satyagrahis along with Gandhiji and other Congress leaders were jailed. Around 110 people were killed and over 300 were wounded in the firing. There were restrictions imposed by the government on the press. Students, the British tried to divide the people of India by persuading the Muslims, zamindars and other minorities in their support. However, the leaders took to developmental program across the country where they wore khaddar and strived for removal of untouchability in the society to bring social unity. Another interesting aspect is that the women influenced by the call of Gandhiji broke the parda and took active part in the struggle. These protests, struggles and movements by the Indian people resulted in the Government of India Act of 1935.
The Government of India Act 1935 called for provincial autonomy and elections were announced to the provincial legislatures in the year 1937. Governments were formed by Congress in 7 provinces out of 11. In September 1939, 2 years after the Congress rule, the Second World War began. After careful evaluation of Hitler, the Congress leaders decided to support the British.
Students, the Congress leaders wanted independence for India from the British in return to their support in the World War II. But the British did not pay any heed to this demand, although the Congress ministers resigned as a mark of protest. Students, now let us learn about the Quit India movement. The British wished to utilize resources of India, that is, the people and the money for World War II. As we have seen earlier, the Congress wanted British to grant independence in return for the support. The British government, however, was not interested in accepting this demand.
On August 8, 1942, the Working Committee of the Congress met at Bombay and passed a resolution that stressed on the immediate end of British rule in India. This was the Quit India resolution that was passed, after which Gandhiji addressed the Indians. Every one of you should from this moment onwards consider yourself a free man or woman and act as if you are free. I am not going to be satisfied with anything short of complete freedom. We shall do or die. We shall either free India or die in the attempt.
This was how Gandhiji motivated the people of India and gave the slogan of do or die.
On August 9, 1942, most of the Congress leaders like Gandhiji, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Jawaharlal Nehru, Maulana Azad, Acharya Kripalani, Rajendra Prasad and others were arrested by the government. There were protests and hartals across the country that made the movement a violent one.
While the working class boycotted work from factories, the students attacked police stations, post offices, railway stations and public places. The telephone and telegraph line were cut off by the protesters. Government buildings, vehicles, railway carriages and military vehicles were burnt. Around 10 lakh pounds worth of property was destroyed in the movement. Around 30 policemen and 10 army men lost their lives, while many hundreds of people were killed and thousands were arrested as a part of the government suppression.
The cities of Madras and Bombay were the most affected as a result of the protests. The authority of the British disappeared in areas of Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Odisha, West Bengal, Maharashtra and Andhra Pradesh. A parallel government was set up in Midnapur during 1942 to 44.
As all this was happening in the year 1940, the Muslim League moved a resolution that demanding independent states for Muslims in the northwestern and eastern areas in the country. There was no mention of partition or Pakistan in the resolution. Students, why do you think the League demanded a separate arrangement for the Muslims in the subcontinent? The League tried to get a separate state for the Muslims from the Hindus from the late 1930s. The history of struggles between some of the Hindu and the Muslim groups is seen as one of the causes of a separate state.
In addition, the provincial elections of 1937 pointed to the League that the Muslims were a minority in the country and that they would continue to have the same status in any democratic structure.
There was a fear in the League that the Muslims may not be represented. In addition, the refusal of the League's idea of formation of joint Congress-League government in the United Provinces in 1937 became another issue of concern for the League. Another important aspect is that during the 1930s, the Congress failed to mobilize the Muslims. The League acted upon the situation and expanded its social support. In the 1940s, the League tried to widen its support at a time when most of the Congress leaders were imprisoned. At the end of the Second World War in 1945, the British called for a dialogue between the Congress, the League and themselves to declare independence of India. Students, the negotiations between them failed due to the League's dominating attitude as the only spokesperson of the Muslims of India. But students, the Congress did not accept the League's decision as a large group of Muslims still extended their support to it. In the year 1946, the elections to the provinces took place. Although the Congress earned success in the general constituencies, the League bagged huge success in the Muslims reserved seats. At the same time, the demand for Pakistan remained.
In March of 1946, a mission was sent by the British cabinet which consisted of Stafford Cripps, Pethick Lawrence and Alexander. This committee came to Delhi to analyze the demand for Pakistan while suggesting a feasible political framework for a free India.
The mission recommended that India should continue to be united while constituting itself as a confederation with some autonomy for the Muslim majority regions. But the Congress and Muslim League were against certain recommendations of the committee, as a result of which the partition of India seemed the only option. With the failure of the recommendations of the cabinet, mission planned a mass protest for Pakistan.
August 16, 1946 was decided to the Direct Action Day. There were riots in Calcutta that went on for many days, which resulted in the deaths of thousands of people.
Students, this violence spread to various places in the country gradually.
Louis Mountbatten, the then Viceroy in 1947, failed to resolve the differences between the Congress and the Muslim League. Subsequently, it was agreed that India would be split into Hindu-dominated India and Muslim-controlled Pakistan. Thus, India became independent on August 15, 1947, while Pakistan became independent on 14th August 1947.
Although the partition was complete, many thousands of people were killed while a number of women underwent many brutal attacks. Lakhs of people were forced to leave their homes, as a result of which they became refugees in unknown lands. This was how the independence of India not only brought in joy but also a lot of pain to several people due to the partition. Well student, that was all for today's class. Hope to see you in the next class. Till then, bye bye.